Okay. So let me
Side.
just realize I hadn't hit record. Ah,
There
never
you
mind.
go.
Carry.
So that is my story of falling down the bunny hole of numbing and running. And the more shame I would feel, the more likely I would drink the next night to deal with the shame. And really, in my case, connecting the dots between workaholism and alcoholism, not very difficult. Um, long ago, early, I should have said, this is too much for me. The job I had was too much for me, and what I was trying to produce was impossible. And moving to a city where I knew no one, I don't speak French. Montreal's a French-speaking city. I had never been in senior management of a university. All of it was a lot. And still, I will say to my credit and those who worked with me, we um, were told to raise X million and we raised Y, far above what we were to raise. But that isn't the point. The point is I almost lost myself. I lost my childhood. I lost my cousin, and I almost lost myself to alcohol. And it was totally a numbing agency for me, a numbing agent, excuse me, a numbing agent, and the easiest one I could find.
And can I ask, and loads of people have said how much they relate to this and that kind of stuff. How how was that first year when you didn't have alcohol to numb and run? What how did you feel? How was that? Because I felt like my skin had been taken off. I felt raw.
Yeah, I feel very almost teary when I think of that woman in the first year and a half because uh, I still had to deal with depression and I'm not numbing in the way I normally did. I had to deal with trauma and facing the trauma. I wasn't, according to my partner of 14 years, Jake, I wasn't fun anymore.
Mm.
I had to deal with that. I had to deal with my father dying of end stage alcoholism and found myself really taking life quite seriously. I had to find my sea legs. And it was hard. It was very hard. But I wrote a lot. I was very thoughtful, and thus was born Drink a few years later. And that's the happiest I've ever been is, I was raised in a culture where my mother's drinking was a so-called secret, where no one talked about her drinking. Of course, everybody knew. We were middle class, upper middle class, and it was embarrassing. Mine was the house you couldn't invite your friends to. And therefore, I was determined to write the book Drink and come out. But so th life turned then, but in the first year and a half, it was very hard.
Mm. And how we're going to actually talk about this a lot, like Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. But what did you have to learn in order to not numb your feelings anymore?
I had to learn that my feelings were a gift.
Mm.
And that and whether you're a writer or you're not a writer, for me, journaling was everything. Journaling was my friend. It was how I started the day. It was where large parts of Drink came from. And I had to learn that I was a quieter person than I knew. I was a thoughtful person. I learned to walk into events, parties, gatherings, dinners, and use my journalistic skills and just quietly listen to another person tell me about their life and find, of course, everybody likes talking about their lives. And that wasn't, as long as I had a glass of something in my hand, how are you? I was fine. and then go home early. So getting my sea legs was complicated, but I tried very hard in that first year to get my father to come to a meeting and to come along and try to save his life. And my doctor said, this is a life preserver you've been given, not a life raft. And you learn that you have to do it for yourself. So yes, my feelings were a gift, and I was a different person than I knew. A different person than I knew. And that was thoughtful. And now I know there's a huge price to overwork for me.
Mm.
There's a huge price to there's a huge threat of burnout. I
Mm.
still battle that one. I
Mm.
do believe in the whack-a-mole theory that if you battle one thing, if you're not careful, you'll be battling another, be it sugar, be it shopping, be it overwork in my case.
Mm.
And we have to live very consciously, which is actually beautiful.
Mm.
It's a
Yeah.
gift. You know, I love the Rumi poem, Don't Go Back to Sleep.
Yes.
The secrets at dawn, you know, that you're meant to hear, don't go back to sleep. And I do think of those drinking years as my years of being asleep,
Mm.
really asleep and not noticing things. And I was a blackout drunk. That's the other thing I want to say is that um I binged. I did binge,
Mm.
and it was a very, very dangerous and sad way to live.
Mm. I love that because that's how I felt. Who else feels like you're sleepwalking through your life, right? You on the outside, I look like a person, but on the inside, I was just dying on the inside. That's what numbing does, is we're dying on the inside. And I was just walking through life not able to feel. When I was I think I was 19, my father passed away and I didn't feel anything. I was already in active addiction. I was alcohol, prescription drugs, and I just couldn't feel. I had to fake it. I couldn't feel it. And I didn't get into contact with those feelings till a decade later when I was sober. And we're missing so much when we're numbing. This is what we said yesterday. This is not what we're here to do. This is not what we're here to do, and this has to change. We can't live. When you were talking, Anne, I was thinking, I'm so glad you're sober. I mean, you wouldn't be alive, my love, would you?
No, no, I was very aware I was going to die. I was
Yeah.
very aware of it. I have I have poor balance, a bad eye. My sense of perception is a little off. Nobody needs to worry about that. But yeah, falling was easy for me.
Mm.
Hitting my head would have been very easy for me.
Yeah.
So I was really aware. And I'm what I don't understand, and it is, grace is why I was able to get it and come out the other side, and my parents weren't. And I believe there's such a rich life on the other side.
Mm.
And I think, like many, I spent so much time worrying about not having fun,
Mm.
and the whole FOMO thing about and everybody says, but what about the champagne at my wedding? And I was there and engaged to be married, and it's not an issue. It's really not an issue. What if you're not alive to be married? What if you are,
Yeah.
what if you are exiting the universe? So, but I was determined to stay at the party and have the glass I thought I deserved. And that just it isn't an issue for me.
Mm.
My life is so much richer.
Yeah. So I just looking at some of the comments. it's having the how, and we're going to explain that. I when I first got sober, I felt there was a lot of things were very vague. You know, there was just very, like, you need to work on yourself, or you need self-care. It was just very vague, like, specifically tell me what I need to do to be okay. Like, specifically tell me what I need to do to be happy, because I'm not, and I've been searching everywhere. So we are going to go into that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We're going to specifically drill down into some of the how. But I'll tell you right now, it's what I said yesterday. It's consistency. I see people a lot say, I've tried everything. I've been to this program, been to that program, I've done this, I've done that. And I'm going to guarantee probably what they haven't done is consistency. Consistently doing things to support your sobriety. And thank you for that. And I just, there was a couple of things I wanted to pick up on is you know, the reason that we share personal stories is, you would look at Anne and think she'd always been fine, right? I was complimenting on her beautiful living room, and she was saying it was inspired by her time in London. Like, we would look at you and think you were fine, but you wanted to die. It was that bad. And that we're not exceptional. This is clear. There's nothing special and different about us, right, Anne?
No, no, absolutely not. It's putting one day after another, and truly believing in my case that when as long as I do not drink, the universe has a better imagination than I do. Actually, wonderful things will happen. I'll just cite quickly that, you know, in my mid-60s, I went back to university to become a psychotherapist, and after all those years of writing, and that's just something that wouldn't have happened had I been drinking. When I say all things are possible, I mean all things are possible. And whatever you want to put your hands around, reach out and start it. And if you're not drinking, it will happen.
Mm. Yeah, it's really important that you guys know that because I know people do this to me, like, oh, you're lucky, you know, there's something different about you. I had no one when I got sober. No one. I had no family support whatsoever. And I want to say no friends. I had a couple of friends. All my support went from going to a 12-step program. Like, I had no choice. Like, we were given the gift of desperation, and we had no choice, and there had to be a better way to live. So I want you to know that what we have in our lives is a result of doing the work. And if you're interested in the work, we and I'm going to tell you guys about it tomorrow, but I'm just going to let you know, we have a 5-month coaching program with Anne and I. It is a deep dive into the work. There's a 2-day retreat that's part of it. And we're going to take you through exactly what the work is. And we'll talk about that tomorrow. But it was the how. Like, I was floundering around looking for the how. And when you find the how, it's then being able to apply it and then doing it consistently. And we'll go more into that tomorrow. I'm going to talk about, you know, I was just, the numbing and running bit. I wonder if anyone else has done this. I remember I was in university, so I was in my early 20s, and I had a pattern in relationships. My relationships were a train wreck, very, very related to my drinking, like just a train wreck. I was dating some guy. We broke up, and he broke up with me on the phone. And I put the phone down. This is back in those days when we had those phones in the 90s. And my first thought was, this is a 2-bottle of wine job. It's not a 1 bottle of wine job. It's a 2-bottle of wine job. And I remember going to the off license, as we call them in London, and doing the whole kind of like, oh, got people coming over, you know, better get 2, you know, because God forbid that the people who sell alcohol think you have an alcohol problem, right? I think so many people do that, and they must roll their eyes. And I drank them because I needed to not feel, but because, no, I didn't know how to survive the feelings coming towards me. And that's how it felt a lot. It felt like this tsunami. I could see it coming, like I could see it coming, and I didn't think I could survive them. So alcohol, just the tsunami went away. Like it took, I mean, I woke up and it was there. I was drowning, but like I just didn't know how I was going to survive my feeling. I had no other tool than numbing and running. Who else relates to that? I had nothing. And this is the emotional sobriety bit, people. This is the bit you have to learn. We have to learn all of the stuff underneath. They're all life skills. And if we don't have these life skills, if we didn't learn them when we were growing up, and most of us don't, most of us grew up in families that didn't role model how to have good boundaries, how to deal with conflict, how to manage anger, how to deal with disappointment, how to deal with frustration. I didn't grow up in a family that role modeled that at all. My family was like, shut it down. And I didn't grow up in a family that was able to support me with my feelings in the way that I hope that I'm supporting my two sons. So I didn't have the tools, and I lived in a culture that alcohol was very accessible. So that worked. I found it at 13. That worked. That it just worked. And your brain goes, that works. And our brains make that powerful connection. Here's what happens. I don't like how I feel. This feels very uncomfortable and frightening. How can I change it? How can I change it as quickly as possible? And our brains just default to alcohol. And we will keep doing that until we have a better way. So we will keep doing that until we discover a better way to deal with what's inside of us. Am I making sense to everybody? So I want to just talk about I want to clear up, like, I'm going to say, if you're here, you have an alcohol problem, right? People who don't have a problem with alcohol, they don't show up to things like this. So who's heard my sandwiches analogy? I just did this on TikTok and it went viral. It has like 5.5 million views. But this is how a regular person thinks about alcohol, because who does that? Like, who's always questioning, like, do I have a problem? Or do I not? Am I as bad as that person? Right? Who does that? So this is what normal people do. So today I might have a sandwich for my lunch and I think, oh, enjoy that. And then tomorrow I might have some soup. And then the next day I might have some salad. And maybe I'm at a party at the weekend and a plate of sandwiches goes by. And I think, oh, nice, I have a couple of those and I enjoy my sandwiches. A bit later, a plate of sandwiches goes by and I go, no, I'm good, thanks. That's literally how much space in my head I rent out to sandwiches. Like, I don't think about sandwiches any more than that. That's how normal drinkers, for want of a better word, and I don't like the word normal, but that's how people who don't have a problem with, that's how they think about alcohol. It doesn't rent any space in their heads. So that is the biggest indicator that alcohol is not your friend, because people with an alcohol problem do 4 things. They drink, they think about drinking, they think about not drinking, and they recover from drinking. And if you do those 4 things, and I want to say the biggest one is the thinking about not drinking, then you're in the right place. Then that's a problem with alcohol. So what happens is we keep asking ourselves the wrong question. We keep saying things like, is my drinking bad enough? Who's done that, right? Is my drinking really, is it that bad? Oh, and we also have people around us who's I mean, I had friends say that it's not that bad, right? Who's taken like done dry January? Or did you have people say that to you, Anne? Did you have anyone say it? Yeah,
I did, absolutely.
Yeah, it's not that bad, right?
Even when I went to rehab.
Really?
Yeah, people will say, why are you doing this? Your drinking isn't that bad.
It's crazy. It's crazy, the cultural beliefs that we have about alcohol. So everybody, and this is, we when we're in this kind of madness, everybody thinks that someone who has a bad alcohol problem is homeless people. That's it. If you have a mortgage if you have a nice house, if you have a nice car, if you go on holiday, if you have a job, you can't have an alcohol problem. That's how the rest of the world thinks. So what I want you to know is an alcohol problem shows up internally years before it shows up externally. And this is why people think that it isn't bad. The reason that that's the wrong question is that you can always find someone who's worse than you, right? You can always find, like so-and-so's drinking vodka at breakfast. Oh, not that bad. So-and-so's had 2 DUIs in the last, I'm not that bad, right? It's really easy to find someone who's you perceive their drinking is worse. And then we go, oh, I'm not doing that, so my drinking is fine, right? Who's done that? It's the wrong question. The question is this good enough for me? Is this numbing and running? Is this trying to manage my relationship with alcohol? Is this struggle? Is this the hangovers, the shame? Is that good enough for you? Is that a good enough life? Guys, put it in the chat. Is this good enough for you, the way you've been living? It's not, is it? If you're a parent, would you want your kids to have the same relationship with alcohol? That's the big one. No. So it has to stop. It has to stop. And it has to stop now. Because this isn't, and we get really, we get complacent. Like I have a client right now, she's about 15 days in and she's starting to feel better. And she's just realizing, and she's in the 50s, how she just felt crappy all the time, but got used to it. Now, I got sober when I was 27, so youth was on my side, but I'm so allergic to alcohol. I was always hungover and just, and I remember when I stopped drinking, and I remember going rollerblading, and I was about 30 or 40 days sober, and I came back and I felt incredible. I was like, this, like, and then I had this like epiphany where I'm like, oh, that's how I could feel like this all the time. This is not having alcohol in my system plus exercise. This feels incredible. Like, this is amazing. And I just realized how used to just feeling I had felt for so long. So the reason that most people will look at you and think you don't have a problem is because the alcohol problem shows up inside before it shows up on the outside. And let me explain what I mean by that. An alcohol problem shows up in the feelings of shame, self-loathing and regret, fear, anxiety, resentment, not feeling good enough. An alcohol problem shows up inside with all of who's felt that way after drinking, like the shame, the self-loathing, the not good enough, the self-doubt, the people pleasing, the not being able to manage your emotions, right? All of that kind of stuff. We can disguise that. We can, and we are probably quite good at, were you good at disguising that in your VP job with your nice suits? Could you hide? Did you feel like you were hiding it?
Totally. And, there's an interesting fact in Carolyn Knapp's book, Drinking a Love Story, where the average woman is looking at a 12-year bargaining. And mine was 12 years. When I did the math, it was 12 years that I bargained and said, I won't give it up. I don't need to give it up. It's not that bad. Maybe I could do it differently. It was 12 years. It was a long 12 years. And that many, many years I was shiny. Mm-hmm. Shiny and bright.
And nobody, so what happens is there's this disconnect to what we're showing to the world on the outside and what we really feel on the inside. And the more that goes on, this kind of separation with our outside self and our inside self, that in itself feels very uncomfortable. And I was the same. What I wanted to do is I really wanted to hide my anxiety and my fear. Like, so I was like, hi, you know, and I was sort of, you know, party girl. I was very extroverted, lots of energy. And it was disguising all of that. I was so scared that people would really see what was inside. I just thought I would die if people saw what was really inside of me, because what was inside of me was so ugly. So an alcohol problem on the outside is DUIs, falling over blackout drunk, getting arrested, getting fired from a job because of your drinking, um, you know, drinking at unacceptable times of the day, all of that kind of stuff. The things that people can see. Now, of course, that's an alcohol problem. And that's when the rest of the world will go, oh, you know, maybe there's an alcohol problem there. But what nobody realizes is for 12 years, at least beforehand, there was stuff going on the inside. Does that make sense to everybody? This is an inside job, people. It's an inside job. It's not an outside job. So we've been asking the wrong questions, and we do that because we are bargaining with ourselves. We are the self-delusion that we have around our relationship with alcohol. It's quite amazing to me. I've done this work for over 20 years, and the ability that we have to lie and self-deceive is really quite extraordinary. And the reason that we do that is because of what we talked about yesterday, the belief that alcohol is the best way to have fun, excitement, belonging, connection, relax, and reward ourselves. That is why we bargain with ourselves, try to manage our drinking, delude ourselves, and lie to ourselves, because we're so scared that if we give up alcohol, we'll be giving up all of those things too. So we enter into this, and the research does support that. It's 10 plus years of trying to manage alcohol. Just trying to, if I can just figure out the formula so I can drink and not have consequences. And I get all of you have probably done this for years, right? You've probably done this for years. It's exhausting. Just want to say, when people say getting sober is hard, I want to tell you it's not hard. It's not hard. Getting sober is not hard, people. Having an alcohol problem is hard work. Having an alcohol problem is hard work. Going to work hungover. Did you have to go to your high-powered job hungover? Like really high? Like, is that the worst thing you've ever done? Is it awful? It's just awful.
Terrible. And then you know what you do? You persuade somebody that you'd like to take them out for lunch, and you order a drink.
Yeah.
Order a drink. And guess what? They don't want one. But you have one anyway.
You have to have one, right?
You have to have one.
Yeah. It's the only way you get through the rest of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or you go to dinner and order the second bottle and pick up the tab. It was also expensive.
Yes. So getting sober requires effort. We have to put effort into getting sober. So changing that language will change our perception of it. So this takes effort. So I want to just define what being sober actually means, and the difference between being alcohol free and being sober. So I have a good friend in England. She doesn't drink. She's never drunk. I mean, I think she maybe once or twice when she was young, didn't like it, saw no point. And she's just alcohol free, like someone's vegetarian, right? It's a lifestyle choice for her. It's not attractive. She doesn't like it. So for her, she's alcohol free. I'm obviously alcohol free, but I'm sober, and there's a difference. And the difference is the 10% not drinking, the 90% emotional sobriety. It's the reasons that I drank need addressing, because here's what happens. When we stop drinking, all these feelings and emotions we have been numbing and running are still there. And our brains are like a Google search engine. So our brains are going to look for all of, if we rule out alcohol, our brains are just going to go down the list of what can I do to change how I don't like how I feel? How can I change it? Okay, we're not drinking. What can we do? Are we vaping? Are we looking at screens? Are we gambling? Are we sex and romance? Are we using that as a distraction? Exercise? There's tons of different behaviors and substances that we can use that's not alcohol to numb and run. Who's done that, by the way? Who has known that they have switched to something else? So for me, the most common one I want to tell you is food, sugar and food. And I want to say it's probably my first substance that I abused to numb and run before I even got to alcohol. It's very, very common. So if we just stop drinking and we're not emotionally sober, we're just going to have all of these feelings that we never knew how to deal with. We didn't get when we were kids, we didn't get parented in a way that showed us how to deal with feelings. Here's the other thing: as you drink, as an adult, because you're numbing and running, you're missing opportunities to learn and grow. Anne said it earlier that feelings are a gift. The reason that feelings are a gift is that they are there to help us grow. So if you are defaulting to alcohol to manage your feelings and you are just numbing, you are missing the gift of growth. So when we get sober, we're like emotional teenagers because we just don't, we just miss it. We missed out lots and lots of opportunities to grow and learn from our feelings and emotions. Is that making sense to everybody? When we are comfortable in our own skin, we don't want to numb and run. That's the goal of emotional sobriety, is that we get to a point where we don't want to I would just as well drink a glass of bleach as I would a glass of alcohol. It would bring nothing to my life. That because I'm so comfortable in my own skin, my insides and my outsides match. I'm in full alignment with myself. The solution is feeling comfortable in your own skin. And if you are like me and you've lived most of your life feeling up until I got sober, feeling very uncomfortable in your own skin. Who relates to that? Who relates to feeling very uncomfortable in your own skin? If you have lived most of your life, it's like night and day, isn't it, Anne? It's like night and day.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
The difference is extraordinary. And so the how, that's what we do. The how to get to the place where you feel comfortable in your own skin and have appropriate emotional responses to events. We just want to have we want to get to a place where we have emotional mastery, where we are in charge of our feelings and emotions. We still have them. It doesn't mean that we don't experience fear or disappointment or frustration or any of those kind of things. It's just that we have mastery and methods to be able to get the gifts in those experiences and grow and leave them behind. That's the difference. And those are just life skills that you can learn anytime. That is the work that we do. Who would like to know how to do that? We're going to wrap up here in a couple of minutes. I'm going to give you the homework question. It's the how. It's the how. If we know how to do that, if we know how to navigate life without needing to numb and run, without needing alcohol or all of the other substances, we will feel comfortable in our own skin. We don't want to do things that destroy us. And that's how we leave alcohol. We don't want to do, it just doesn't become attractive because we found a better way. And that's what both of Anne and I have been doing I've been doing for almost 24 years. Anne has been doing for 15 years. And we will be going more into that tomorrow. So I'm going to give the homework question. The VIP starts in 10 minutes from now. So those of you in the VIP group, we would love to see you there. If anybody else wants to jump into the VIP group because they have questions or thoughts or would like a little support or coaching from Anne and I, it's a small group. It's a meeting format so we can see each other and talk to each other. Carrie will put it in the thing for the VIP. Carrie, just make sure Cindy... I think Cindy has already paid for the VIP. Cindy, I just want to make sure that she can get into it. You can, Carrie will help you. Wendy looks like she needs the link as well. It might be, I think the problem we've discovered is that if you've opted out of my emails in the past or flagged them as spam or something, that's why you're not getting them. Yeah. Wendy, I will, if you send me a Facebook message and I'll make sure that you have the link. No, Phyllis, this call will end and it's a separate link for the VIP. And hopefully Carrie will manage that and I will if you Facebook message me, I'll do it that way. Okay, here is tomorrow. We're going to talk about the secret for getting free from alcohol for good. We're going to be talking about why quick fixes don't work, what emotional sobriety actually is. And we're going to be talking about how boundaries will change your life and allow you to thrive. Boundaries are a key component of emotional sobriety. So don't miss tomorrow. You can catch the recording, but if you come live, we would love to give you a prize. Okay, today's question is, how do you use alcohol to numb and run from feelings? And that will pop up in the Facebook group. Please don't message me with it. Please don't post it anywhere else. It needs to be in the thread on the Facebook group. I'm going to post it in here. How do you use alcohol to numb or run from feelings? Who's going to be back tomorrow? Today was great. Yay, 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 yay.
Excellent. Yeah. Wonderful.
Brilliant.
We look forward to seeing you.
Yeah. Message me in the Facebook group if you don't, if you've joined the VIP and you don't have the link. Okay, Sherry's cleared a schedule for this. Brilliant. We'll see you in VIP starts in 7 minutes. All right, everybody. See you tomorrow. Same time, same place.
Wonderful.
Bye.
Thank you.